Hey everyone, how are we doing? Welcome back to a novel review, the Book Podcast. If you are a lover of literature, you are definitely in the right place because every week I review a different book. Today being no different, but a little different in that I am reviewing The God of the Small Things by Arundhati Roy. This is the second leg of my month of September for the World Book Tour, where I ventured to India. If you are new here and wondering what that is, every month for 2025, I am venturing to a different country through books, reading a male and female author born in that country, in the respective country, and writing about that respective country, and then just sort of comparing the books, seeing if there's any similarities I notice, any differences I notice, anything I can elucidate from reading two books. And it's just a way to sort of broaden the reading horizon a bit, I guess. So we've been to many wonderful countries this year. This was the second leg, as I said, of India. The second leg is traditionally been my favorite leg because it's the opportunity to, of course, review the book, but then, of course, review and compare the two books. I'm throwing a bookmark around. So the first one I did was The White Tiger by Aravinda Diga, which I reviewed, so go check that out. And today I will be doing The God of the Small Things. However, I do want to specify something from the top. I really struggled with this book. I really did not like it, but we should preface something there. Something that I very much carry with me and advocate a lot is that just because I didn't like it doesn't mean it's bad. It won the Booker, so it's obviously a very well-respected book, but for some reason, it just did not vibe with me. So I'll speak a bit about that in a second. First, I just want to say thanks so much for joining me. I hope you're all well. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you would like to like and subscribe, I'd greatly appreciate that. I want to give a special shout out to everyone that subscribes on my Patreon, everyone that has bought me a coffee. I greatly appreciate it. Everyone that likes and subscribes and comments and sends me emails and messages and everything like that. It's absolutely fantastic and wonderful to engage with all of you. Where I'm having some fantastic discussions with various listeners about a range of topics. My favorite one for this week is banned books, which is a really fascinating topic and pretty relevant at the moment. So yeah, having a great time with that. So thank you so much to you guys for engaging with me that way as well. I really do appreciate it and I love it and I enjoy it. Before I get into the book though, I thought I might do a bit of what have I bought this week from the bookshops. Run us through a few books that I have purchased, because I purchased a few books. One of them is absolutely massive. The first one is Dan Simmons' Hyperion. So this is a Hugo Award-winning novel. It's a very cool little traditional kind of wacky sci-fi fantasy cover, which I absolutely love. It did have the other books there that I chose not to buy just in case I didn't actually like it, but everyone says it's a decent story, so pretty keen to get into that eventually, because I'm pretty busy reading so many other books. This book from Fitzgerald that I've wanted to read for a very long time by Olga, Tokarczuk, Drive Your Plow over the Bones of the Dead. Wonderful, simple cover. The blue and white I think just goes so well, just makes it so readable and just stands out. So yeah, Olga Tokarczuk, Polish writer, really keen to get into that because it looks like a fascinating story and Poland looks like a cool country as well. So keen to get into that. And then this last book, The Wizard Knight by Gene Wolfe. Now I did Gene Wolfe's Book of the New Sun for my fantasy series, where I did, those 4 months spent on the Book of the New Sun. And ever since then, I've been trying to find more Gene Wolfe. I've messaged a few bookshops and most of his books are out of print. So to find this one secondhand, I think is absolutely fantastic. It is probably the biggest book I've ever seen in terms of just physical size. I'll hold it up for the benefit of those on YouTube. It is absolutely massive. I'm pretty sure it's technically two books in one that sort of compile the one story, but it has been unified in this one compendium of a behemoth of a novel. And what I'm excited about this is I'm pretty sure it's just a one-done fantasy series, kind of like Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell, in that it's you enter the world and you leave the world in one book, which is always kind of refreshing as well, because sometimes staring down the barrel of like a 14-book fantasy series can be a bit daunting. So The Wizard Knight by Gene Wolfe, everyone says it's a fantastic book that I've sort of spoken to and engaged with about this book. It is absolutely massive though, like I said, and then it's still a an expansive 920 pages. So, I mean, it's nearly the size of an A4 piece of paper for those just listening, and still also 920 pages, which is absolutely massive. So, don't think I'll be getting into this one anytime soon, but I'm very glad to know it's there. Okay, let's get into The God of the Small Things by Arundhati Roy. I was really looking forward to this book. I thought it was going to be such an interesting month to do, this month of India, because there were two Booker Prize winning novels in The White Tiger and The God of the Small Things. This is a book that I've had on my radar for an incredibly long time. I'll quickly read the blurb just to show you how interesting the story sounds. Esther and Rahel's 7-year-old twins are growing up amidst vats of banana jam, mountains of peppercorns, and scenes of political turbulence in Kerala. When their beautiful young cousin Sophie arrives, their world is shaken irrevocably. An illicit liaison and tragedies, accidental and intentional, expose things that lurk unsaid in a country drifting dangerously towards unrest. Now that sounds like a very cool story, one where the I guess unrest in a story and turbulent times, unrest in a family and the turbulent times that a family can be facing sort of mimic that of the political world outside of the family, outside of the confines of the family structure, of the family unit. I think it makes for a really interesting story. You know, it had all the hallmarks of a book that I thought I was going to absolutely love, and I just did not like it at all. And I don't really know what to say more than that. I really didn't like it. I didn't even finish the book. I really, really struggled with it. It just seemed no matter how hard of attention I paid to the book, how slowly I read the pages, the story was just not going in. And when I was doing my episode on The White Tiger, I did say that I was struggling in the opening stages of this book because it seemed to be a bit all over the place and I just wasn't in the right headspace for that. And so I just struggled. I really, really struggled. And as I said, just because I didn't like it doesn't mean it's a bad book at all. I mean, it won the Booker, for goodness sakes, so it's obviously very well respected. What I found startling was it's completely different to The White Tiger, which is, of course, the other Indian book I did and also won the Booker Prize. Two very, very different novels. I'd love to read, and I probably will go read sort of what the judges' notes were on the two books because they're two incredibly different novels. I thought it'd be good to just briefly chat about it because, you know, I announced that I was doing this book for the Book World Tour. I announced that I was doing an episode on it, and now, of course, I haven't even finished the book, that I don't want to speak to it with any kind of confidence and you know, say anything that is potentially incorrect just because I haven't read it. But I think it's also good to reflect on why you don't like books, and, you know, you shouldn't just cast them aside and say, oh, that was a crap book. Like, you should actually, you know, consider why it didn't vibe with you. This year of 2025, I did sort of sit down and one of my New Year's resolutions was start DNFing some books because traditionally I've just powered through even if I didn't like them. And this year I was kind of like, no, life's too short to read books that just aren't vibing with you, which can be perilous as well. But I think even if, you know, it's hailed as a classic or a modern classic as this book is, if it's just not vibing with you, it's just not vibing with you. But as I said, it's important to sort of consider why it's not vibing with you, why you're not enjoying it. Because it might be, you know, things within the story that aren't vibing with you. It might be, you know, the way the story is being told, the way the language is being told. It could be a translation issue. It could be that something in the story is hitting you the wrong way, or maybe you're too young or too old to understand the story in a certain context. So, you know, I sort of thought I'd just briefly chat about why I didn't like this book. When it opened, I really, really struggled right from the first page to sort of place myself within the story. And what I mean is it was jumping around a lot. It was jumping around between a lot of characters and then different time periods as well. And so I really struggled to sort of lay any kind of foundation within the story. I was reading a few sort of Goodreads reviews and a lot of people loved this, and it seems a lot of people didn't like this as well. So it's kind of nice that I don't feel like I'm completely in the minority here. It does seem to be a book that people either really vibe with and love, or they just don't love at all. But yeah, for me, I think that was one of the main concerns, is the story was just jumping around so much that I found it really difficult to place myself in the story and to sort of feel like I knew the characters, but then even knew who was talking, and then of course what time period I was talking to them or listening to them in. And I think that really removed me from the story a lot, because I want to know who's talking. I want to follow the story. And I think it's an interesting way that Arundhati Roy has decided to tell this story, because from the, blurb, it does sound like it's going to be an incredibly interesting story where something happens, and maybe then I thought it was going to be this semi-linear story where something happens. This girl Sophie comes, and then it sort of spurns up all these memories, and so then it was going to become kind of this reflective story where we're looking back on memories and understanding how those memories play into the current theme of what's going on at the day. And I thought it was going to be this cool story where it definitely does jump back and forth a bit, but like jumping back and forth from the very early stages where I don't even know the characters' names yet or can't recognize them as individual people. I thought was a bold choice, and maybe that's, what separated Roy from the other people in the Booker Prize. It was 1997 that she won it. But for me, it just completely removed me from the text. It completely disassociated me from the text. I really struggled to know, as I said, who I was talking to, what I was doing there, what was going on. And that was kind of the main struggle. And that's just sort of, it just continued to snowball from there, because suddenly you're 10 pages in, you're 20, you're 30, you're 40, you're 50. And I got to around the 50-page mark, and I was like, I don't know what's going on. I don't know who these characters are. I don't know where we are in the world, and I don't understand the struggles that are going on. And then I got to page 100, and I was like, I still don't know what's going on. And then I got to 125, and I was like, I can't keep pushing through a story where I just don't know what's going on. I don't know where I'm at in the story. Characters have been introduced, but then they're apparently dead, but they're also alive. And it was just a big, big mess for me. And I think it annoys me when I DNF a book, because I often try select books that I think I'm going to like. And like I said, The God of the Small Things, I think it's a fantastic title. I love the cover. It's always caught my eye and always been a book that I've wanted to read for so long. And now that I've come here, I'm annoyed that it hasn't vibed with me that way. Because ultimately it's a Booker Prize winning novel, and I think it's not my loss, but it is my loss in a small kind of way. But that's kind of it. It's a bit of a shame and a bit of a quiet end now to the end of the Indian month of the World Book Tour, because I think it would be disingenuous to now compare the books and to try elucidate any kind of correlating information between the two of them. I think it would be disingenuous to try rate this book because I didn't even finish it. I think it would be disingenuous to speak down on it because it is a Booker Prize winning novel, and as I said, just because I didn't like it doesn't make it a bad story. So that's unfortunately where I'm going to leave it today. The God of the Small Things by Arundhati Roy. I should actually say though, if you did love this book, please let me know and tell me what you loved about it. Of course, I want to engage with people that enjoyed it in that way. If you didn't like it, tell me why you didn't like it as well. I want to engage with people that way. If it was similar, if it was different to my experience, please do let me know. I think that's really important. We shouldn't, be casting each other's differences apart. We should be celebrating the differences. And this was just one that didn't rub me the right way. So, Arundhati Roy, The God of the Small Things, Booker Prize winning novel, but not in this household. Okay, well, that's the end of India, my month of India. It's like I said, a sad end, a disappointing end. But that's okay. We've got next month to look forward to. And for next month, I am going to travel to my current homeland, England. Because I'm currently living here, I wanted to do this country, but I wanted to sort of mix it up because I feel like everyone kind of knows the core great English stories. So I kind of wanted to do a writer that I'd never heard of, even though she was shortlisted for the Booker as well, and then sort of like a different approach to the World Book Tour and about understanding different cultures. So the first book I've got is Penelope Fitzgerald, The Bookshop. This just looks like a charming little story of a woman opening a bookshop in sort of a rural town, so I'm really excited to get into that. It feels quite cozy, and as we enter a cozier time of the year, it should be really, really nice. And then this is a book that was recommended by a listener and is one that I bought and wanted to save specifically to do England. It's Watership Down by Richard Adams. The reason I picked this for England is because it's about anthropomorphized animals that are living in a field, and farmers come and start to rip up that field, and so those animals have to move on. I believe it's rabbits have to move to another field, and I think that's got a few different things we can consider when thinking about English culture, but also just the idea of like farming culture as well, I think is really important and really, really central to the English identity. So I wanted to just try something a little different for this month because, we all know the Dickens, the Christies, the Tolkiens, the the Evelyn Wars. Who else is there? The Brontes. So yeah, plenty of great English writers out there that I thought I'd just do something a little different. So Penelope, Fitzgerald, The Bookshop, and Richard Adams' Watership Down. Thank you so much, guys, for making it all the way to the end. I apologize. It probably was a bit of a disappointing episode. I completely acknowledge and agree. So yeah, stay tuned. Hopefully there's some better episodes on the horizon, because doing a book podcast on books that you haven't even finished does sound like an interesting concept, and no doubt there is, other book podcasts that do it where they explore D&F books, but it's not something that I really want to have constantly going on. I do definitely want to be discussing books that I've read cover to cover. So yeah, thanks so much, guys, for listening in. I really do appreciate it. If you would like to like and subscribe, I'd greatly appreciate that. But as always, I hope to see you next week. Cheers, guys.